Okay, let's go again on the auto pairing. Very hot day in the UK today. Hope you've enjoyed the weather. Majdu has asked a very interesting question, by the way, on the last video about if it damages longer games. I think especially bullet chess is probably bad. I think in longer games opponents are more resourceful for a start, so you can't really trust any things that worked on Blitz if there are resources available from the opponent. On the other hand, you know, if you look up the openings after, I think you can benefit in terms of opening preparation, seeing where there's problems in your repertoire, or if you think you're improvising. I think to get away from improvisation in the opening stage, like here, I mean, I don't really know what I'm doing, except, you know, I've sacrificed the pawn, but maybe I've got an overprotection of e5. But is that really enough to know for longer games if I was going to play this line? So the Morris Smith was rudely rejected with d5, but I don't know, if black castles, maybe I've got bishop h7, the Greek gift here. So he stops that, so he stops bishop h7, knight g5. But I wonder, can I get onto the dark squares now if I try and weaken these dark squares, like try and get onto the d6 square with this move? So bishop a3. So if the knight goes to b5 then to d6, that might be trouble as well. On the other hand, it could be undermined with f6, but then further weakening of the light squares. I think I will give knight b5 a shot, actually, because there's always knight c8 as a bailout. So I really want to play bishop c2, queen d3, create some further weaknesses, maybe use this knight on d6. So at the moment, knight d6, knight e5, and it'll be knight takes f3 check if knight c8. So I guess I might be having to consign to getting it back to d4 if it's chased with a6. So I made way for the queen to come to d3. I could slip in queen d3 first, I guess, before playing either knight d4 or knight d6, considering knight d6 again in this later position. There might be some subtle difference now after g6. So say g6, knight d6. Does knight e5 still work? Knight takes e5, queen takes, knight takes f7. Not very convincing. Because this knight's protecting g6 really, so that's a bit hopeless. So I think I'll move the knight back here. Right, so now maybe I could slip in rook b1, or this bishop b5 skewer is something to consider, so I'll continue overprotecting e5 and avoid this nasty skewer after knight takes the bishop b5. Maybe knight takes d4 here so the queen can go to g3, or h3, attacking h6, attacking e6, and maybe the rook can slip in with rook e3. So I've got a bit more space here because of this this pawn on e5. So I wonder, queen h3 here, is that at all dangerous? Mind you, black's got things like queen g5, so this isn't that sort of rosy from an attacking point of view. So maybe I'll slip in the rook e3 anyway to play rook g3. Maybe rook ae1 then rook g3. So if knight d4, yeah, my pawn chain is strengthened on e5, but I'm still basically a pawn down. I have to prove the compensation here. Is there compensation? Would you say there's any compensation here? After rook g3 maybe? Okay, queen d2 first because it's sort of eyeing h6, but then he's got queen g5. It's annoying. How about f4, queen f4, rook f1? Nope, bishop. Okay, so maybe I'm delayed here. I have to play queen e1 or something, or g3, but then that blocks the rook. So this is all pretty annoying. How about queen b4? That sort of targets the dark squares on the queen side. It's not that relevant for a king side attack. I think I'm going to play g3 here because I've just noticed another idea, h4 and h5, to try and loosen these pawns a bit, potentially. So h4 here, I think. If queen g4, maybe bishop d1 to try and evict this queen away. I really want that queen away from the king side. So I'm hoping queen g4, bishop d1 will be adequate. In fact, okay, so that's interesting now. So I'll play that. If queen f5, maybe g4. Maybe g4 actually almost traps the queen. So queen h3. No, g4 actually is rook queen f4. But what about, so rook f3, there's queen e4. On the other hand, there's queen h6 there. So so maybe, yeah, I'm going to try rook f3 here. Something's happened here which I don't think the opponent wanted. In fact, after queen e4, what about rook f4? Oh, there's queen d3. But then my rook is protecting d4. And then I'm not attacking h6 anymore. So it's all a bit tricky. So queen h6, queen d4. But then maybe, you know, h5 there. But I don't really want to lose my centre. So I wonder, is there something simpler here to do? Like, repeat it first with rook e3 and just prepare things. Maybe bishop f3 and g4. I think, because I don't really want to lose this centre for nebulous compensation. But bishop f3, then there's rook c2. So g4, there's rook f4. Maybe a4 first. Maybe then rook a3 might be useful to try and get both rooks in. So rook f3 and rook a to e3. That might be an idea. So trying to use this queen side as a pivot point to pivot into the king side. So rook here first. But then there's queen b1. Alright, I'll try this again. Is the queen going back to e4 here? Yes. So now rook f4. In this position, it seems rook f4 has no queen d3 because the bishop's just moved from d3. So rook f4 actually seems to be trapping the queen here. Slight difference again. You have to review each position for its own merits sometimes. So that subtle difference, the bishop going back to d7. Now this really works, this rook f4. It wins the black queen. So I'm winning the black queen there. And I think I'd better speed up things now. If I can win e4, that would be great. So I think I'm winning the e4 pawn. And if I can continue with g4 and h5 or something, just try and peel open maybe the h file, king g2, rook h1, h5. That looks pretty good. I'm just trying to open up the lines now against the king. So h5. Okay, I'll take maybe here queen f4 to get into f6. Also threatening queen at queen f7. I just want to play king g2. So the opponent's resigned now. So that was a bit fortunate. So let's have a look at that. What happened there? So I don't really know. This looks like an aggressive counter response to the Morris-Smith, but I've played this before with some good results. So for the sacrifice pawn, if black's really going to play e6, there's an overprotection of e5 possible now. And there's a little bit of play here. The Greek gift has to be a concern off the castle's bishop h7, so he stopped that. I tried to go for a dark square kind of strategy a little bit here, but d6 doesn't seem right because of knight e5. So coming back to d4, but again, you know, if I've got rook e3, there's some compensation then. If the rooks can lift into the attack here, then that's at least a little bit of compensation. This was a very annoying move though, queen g5. So I didn't know if that queen was ever going to be evicted. So this queen d3 resource is really stopping me from rook f3 and rook f4. And it's just funny that's changed, that situation changed with a queenside move. So sometimes playing moves on the queen side have a bearing, have implications for later something happening on the king side. And here it was rook f3 and rook f4 being very powerful now without the queen d3 because the bishop was protecting it on d3. So and after that, then I just like to rip open the lines now to exploit the extra material. Hope you enjoyed that. Please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.